So this mother went to a health centre, was given penicillin and ointment, waited 2 weeks, didn't get better, went to another clinic, got the same, didn't get better, went to a private clinic, got 2 injections, didn't get better, went back to the first one, and they said, no, this is not good. Sent her to the district hospital, who sent her here. So that took mother 6 visits to get her. Grace, so she's had this swelling since April, and she came in and through the eye department because I think the thought was that it was a primary eye tumour. But when you asked clear and careful history, it had clearly started behind the eye and pushed the eye forward and destroyed the eye as it was growing, and it's grown very quickly. So we had to make the assumption that it was a lymphoma and probably a Burkitt's, because that's common here. Well, of course, we suspect it the moment we see it, particularly if it's in an obvious Burkitt type of an anatomical site. But then we need to know what it is, and so we take what we call a fine needle aspirate. We put a needle into the tumour and aspirate it, put it onto some slides, send it off, that's stained and looked at, and has quite a classic picture. We then need to know where it is. We want to know how widespread it is. So we do ultrasounds of the abdomen to make sure that we're not missing something in one of the organs there. We take some cerebrospinal fluid to see whether it's spread into the central nervous system, and then that's the time when we can also give some treatment to prevent or to treat. And we do a bone marrow to see whether it's spread into the bone marrow. And obviously the more widespread it is, the more difficult it is to cure. He's Ganizani, and he's 2.5 years old, which is very young for Burkitt's, and I'm not actually entirely sure that this is a Burkitt's. We're treating him as such while waiting for cytology, which sometimes takes rather a long time. We really didn't feel we could wait when he's got something in his eye, behind his eye. And it may turn out to be something called a rhabdomyosarcoma. He's very miserable. He hasn't been here long, and all he wants to do is to be held, really. Yeah. Do you know Baliti? March, April, May, June, yeah. So, 2.5 months maybe of a history. So it's pretty rapid growing. And I don't think he's got any sight in that eye. We try and convince ourselves it's getting a bit smaller. He had quite a significant lump there before. He thinks I'm going to inject him. We haven't had his cytology results yet, and we thought we must try and preserve the sight in that eye, and so we've given him some treatment in the hope that it will reduce. As I said, the age that these children present is usually 6, and Ganizani is only 2.5.
Do you think this disease carries a stigma in Malawi?
I think that's difficult. I mean, I think the families are very loving and caring towards the children, and I don't think that it affects their relationship. But inevitably there is some gossip in the village, and it may be that because it's such a dramatic thing that sometimes it's thought to be bewitchment or something supernatural rather than natural.
Tell me, how did you become a traditional medicine doctor?
It started off with my parents. They were traditional medicine people, and they would send me to go collect all the roots and stuff. And when they died, they left me with everything. And it's the same thing that I'm doing with my son, who is sat next to me. I can pretty much cure anything apart from HIV/AIDS. Right now, I'm doing my research. I'm talking to a lot of people. I'm praying about it as well, because I believe that nothing is impossible if you pray to God. So right now I would say that I can cure everything apart from HIV/AIDS. There's a lot of things that are happening around here. Like, I'm very happy that the hospital have allowed me to set up office just outside the hospital. What happens is, if there's diseases that they can't do anything about inside, and I can do something about, then the people come out here. And for me as well, there's certain things that I can't sort out. If someone doesn't have blood in their body, I will tell them to go to the hospital for iron tablets and things like that. So I would say that we are working hand in hand, and it's a successful partnership. It's an informal partnership, but I say we are working hand in hand.
Do you have a lot of people coming to you with cancer?
People do come to me with cancer, and I do help them. They do come with tumors, be it on the face, in the stomach, on the legs. I've seen quite a lot of them, and they've come here, and I have helped them. I don't believe that God created a disease like this so that people can suffer. So I believe that sometimes it's inflicted on you by other people. You might have fallen out with them, and they would do something that you get a tumor. It is a cancer that has come from witchcraft. There are ways of finding out. It's like casting bones, but instead of doing that, we put maize flour in a bottle, and in the bottle we add water. And when we've made that mixture, we pour it on the ground, and we are able to read from that whether it's a cancer that's coming from witchcraft or not. It was pneumonia and an allergic reaction to something. Gave him medication, but it didn't help. When the nosebleed started, it lasted about 3 days. The night before I took him to the hospital, I gave him aspirin, but when I woke up the next day, he was still bleeding, so that's when I took him to the hospital. When we went to the hospital, they gave him medication, but it didn't help, so I went back home. After I went back home, I was advised to take him to a traditional medicine man, where I took him. They tried to help him, but it didn't change at all. We went to Balaka Hospital, where they tried to help him, but it didn't help that much, so we went back home, and he started to swell on one side, so his whole side was swollen, the one side. And then we went back to the hospital. That's why they told me that his lungs and his liver were swollen. The traditional doctor gave him some medication to drink, and he also made some incisions on his body. But after one day, nothing had changed, so I decided to go back to the hospital. The medicine man said whatever is happening to Precious is something that someone is doing to him. It's witchcraft. That's what he said, and that's why he had to make the incisions on him. The witchcraft thing didn't make any sense to me, because even after he gave the medication and did what he had to do, nothing changed at all. But when he came here, the same day that he took the medication, I did see a change.
Do the medicine men in the villages slow down the process of diagnosis with these children?
Yes, I think it does happen, simply because a parent may well go to a traditional healer first and then wait to see if that works. And when they see it doesn't work, then they will go elsewhere to see whether somebody else has something better for their child. So yes, if a parent chooses to go to a traditional healer first, and many do, then there probably is some delay. Perhaps the traditional healer should do the same as we should and say, if things don't go well, you know, go for help elsewhere.
I'm heading north, where a lot of the families I've met at Queen Elizabeth Hospital come from. I thought it important to visit one of the rural villages there to understand the problems these villagers face, and also to get a sense of the distance these families have to travel in order to get to hospital.
I'm a chief through my parents. My parents were chiefs, and now I'm the chief.
What are your main duties as the chief?
Before you go to the medicine man, you have to come and report to the chief just in case something happens at the medicine man's house. So you just want to play it safe, really. So you come and report to the chief first. In terms of cancer, traditional medicine does not help at all. That is what we've experienced. It's very bad practice. Basically, what they are trying to do is to get money off of people. They will tell you that I can cure everything, but that is not true. You take your money to them, they take the money, but it doesn't cure your disease. So it's something that needs to be addressed. I would say that in terms of the welfare of the village, the future doesn't look too bright. We've got so many families, some of them are not very well to do, and the support for these families comes from within the village. And the village, as you can see, is not that well to do. So the support that we get is from within the village. But it would be nice to get something from outside the village, some sort of injection that would lift us from where we are now. There's a lot of poor people in the village, so if it continues to be like that, the future won't be too bright for us. I'm really glad to hear that they're now giving chemotherapy at Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital. We were not aware of that. Maybe as well, that's one of the reasons why people are reluctant to go to hospitals, because they're not aware that you get the same treatment as you get in the private hospitals.